let's move on to the Evergreen Trust. And Julie, you are now unmuted, if you'd like to unmute. And I'll try and get your slides ready to bring up.
Thank you. Well, I'll just talk briefly whilst you're getting them ready there, Richard.
Thank you.
So my name's Julie Mayer. I'm the Registered Care Manager, and I oversee the Evergreen Care Trust, Stamford District. I'm here with my colleague. We'll be sharing our presentation today to keep you amused and entertained. And my colleague here is Sue Fletcher. I thought it'd be really good for us to do a duo today for your entertainment, to be able to talk about hopefully the small interventions and the differences that we make to our community. Unfortunately, we will talk about COVID a little bit, because I think unfortunately it has been very prevalent, certainly over the last year, and certainly how we've adapted things here at the Evergreen Care Trust during that time. Yeah, so I think just to kind of start us off, I think obviously from our point of view here at the Evergreen Care Trust, certainly after Lisa's presentation there, is one of the key things for us as well is our multidisciplinary approach. On how we interact with social prescribing, obviously the neighbourhood team, and all the other people, community nurses out there in the field. We believe that it's really, really important to have an open door ethos, so that it's very easy, whether you want to volunteer or whether you need part of our charity services or are paid for or are regulated services, that we are at the other end of a phone. So in the meantime, I'll just hand over to my colleague Sue, and she'll discuss about our...
So Richard, if you'd like to click on to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. This is obviously a bit of history. This is the interesting bit. Well, all of it's interesting, but I love this bit. This is one woman's dream of how to help a community. So our founding CEO, Louise Marsh, in 2005 comes to Stamford area, and she's in social services. So she's going out to people's houses, perhaps putting in mobility aids or putting in nursing care. Great, those people are getting the help they need. What they're finding is, though, that person is having nursing aid. First thing, that person is put out of bed, put into a chair. That person then at lunchtime gets additional nursing care, but they're still sat in that chair. They've had no interaction at all, no social interaction at all during that day. And there was one particular case that really struck Louise. There was a lady who was diagnosed with terminal cancer. No family, no friends. She has this diagnosis and she's going it alone. So she comes under Louise's radar, and Louise is thinking, I need to do something here. I can do something here. Louise reaches out to the churches within Stamford and says, let's start befriending. Somebody needs to walk with this lady on her particular journey. So there's one person from the churches together says, that's absolutely fine. I can befriend this lady. I can go and see her once a week, see how things pan out. I'll just be there as she needs. If she needs a friend, someone to talk to. That particular relationship then lasted for 6 years. She was able to journey with this lady, going to hospital appointments, going to doctor's appointments, and was very much there just as that friend and that support. And that's what Louise could see. This is what Louise could see that was needed. So Louise then leaves social services and starts up the Evergreen Care Trust. Louise is out there doing medical care, hydration, nutrition, medication, and she recruits volunteers to befriend. And that is the foundation, that's the growth of Evergreen, because she could see that there was one piece missing. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this is Louise, yes, going it alone with volunteers from the local churches. Sorry, Richard, next slide. So, as we've been talking about COVID, this is what we look like today. This is our a year in COVID, how we have adapted and how we've had to be flexible with the services we provide. Normally, we're providing 7 voluntary services. I think we've got about 200 volunteers, and certainly there was about 100 volunteers that came on board right at the beginning of COVID, when that was that general call to arms of people to come to help with shopping, to help with prescription collections. So what we're running today, as we are still going through COVID, is we have our advocacy services. So normally the advocates would go to people's homes to help them complete the forms. They would go to their homes to help them complete the blue badge, the mobility badge, or for attendance allowance. Our advocates, obviously, though, are working from home. They can't go into other people's homes. So what they're doing is they're providing telephone support. And our advocates, because they are the type of people that they are, if there is a query or a question and they can help, they will help. And just recently, we've had this wonderful result where a lady was being befriended and unfortunately had a diagnosis of terminal cancer. Help this lady because her cleaner wasn't going in because of COVID, but she said she was coping because she would keep one hand on the hoover and the other hand on her Zimmer frame, and that's how she could get round hoovering. So we needed to do something about this. Spoke to our advocates, and our advocates immediately turned around and said, this lady gets the upper limit of attendance allowance because she has a terminal illness diagnosis. Immediately then we can get more money in there, we can get home support in there, and that lady then is supported not only through befriending, but then also through home support. And I think this is very much the whole ethos of the Evergreen. It's not paid for services and voluntary services, it's everyone intermingles, and it's one great big sort of care circle where we support each other. So this is what our advocates are doing, and I think especially at the moment with the census, all of those letters going out to people, we've already sent a note out to all of our volunteers to say, if you have somebody that needs help, our advocates are here, they will help people with the census. And that's the thing, I think, with our advocates, they tend to sort of plug holes where there is somebody that's having befriending, but they need help with perhaps the death of her husband, and it's the life assurance policy. Can someone check that out? I'm not too sure what's happening. Comes into our advocates, they will sort it. They're wonderful people, very resourceful. I think the word, when they fill out the form, there's a box that says tenacious, and you have to tick that if you want to be an advocate. You just don't give up. You keep going. The second service that is still keep going is our chaplaincy and listening service. And I think during COVID, they've really come to the fore. We will get lots of referrals in from nurses, doctors, family members for befriending. And then what we do is we will phone that person to say, how are you getting on? I'm phoning about befriending, what did you used to do, family, and just to get a bit of a background about that person. But I think what's happening is we see, we're talking to people, and then we can put in chaplaincy or we can put in listening. And it's just that extra support. And it may be that there are people that unfortunately have gone through bereavement during COVID. And of course, they would normally go through the normal bereavement process. But during COVID, there's just this great big holes where people cannot grieve. So our chaplaincy are phoning people once a week, and they have just to support. And I think the wonderful thing about chaplaincy is it's an interim measure. So our chaplaincy again work very closely with us so that they can easily say, right, I've helped this person, now can you put in a befriender? So that's, as I say, it's always this cyclical, just we just support each other. And then our other service, that is actually a brand new service that we started last year, is telephone befriending. Again, projects where some of the relationships are perhaps nearly 10 years old. During COVID, they have all had to stop, and it's just telephone befriending. But what we found is that we've been able to use some of these wonderful crisis volunteers that have come on board through COVID, and we've been able to match them up with people that have come to us to say, I'm not seeing anybody, I'm shielding, I haven't spoken to anybody, I don't speak to anybody from one week to the next. And we can try and match those with one of our telephone befrienders. And I think over the year we've doubled our befriending matches, because we've been able to do the telephone befriending support. And what is wonderful to hear is when we go back to our telephone befrienders to do a review, how are you getting on? Is everything okay? They've said, yep, really looking forward to coming out of COVID so that I can meet up with my telephone befriender. So we're really excited about that. We've had some fantastic matches where people have just clicked. So much so that we got two ladies together, and the telephone befriender said to me, this lady lives in my sister's old house. Her brother used to work with my husband, and she's the only person that I've ever spoken to that went to my primary school. And that's that. So the telephone befriending is going on, and then what we're doing now is we're building up our foundations again, looking to relaunch the rest of our voluntary services. So Richard, if you want to click onto the next slide, please. Okay, so our other voluntary services, as I say, so we're now looking to June to relaunch the rest of our voluntary services. And they are hospital to home. So this is where somebody is being discharged from hospital, but they haven't got any family, they haven't got any support, they haven't got any friends to collect them. They haven't got anybody to say, oh, I've just got you some milk and some bread and some cheese and some ham, and I've popped those in the fridge for when you come back. They haven't got anyone to say, I put the heating on for you. So what we'll do is we'll ask one of our volunteers to go around to the house, put the heating on, get some provisions, collect that person from the hospital, take them home, sit with them, make a cup of tea, obviously, and then just stay there to make sure they're okay. And then the next day, there's another visit or another telephone call just to say, how are you getting on? Are you okay? So that's our hospital to home. We've also got a fantastic bunch of people that do our hand and nail care. I think all of our volunteers are incredibly friendly, gregarious, just energetic, wonderful people. But the hand and nail people, they are really, really lovely. What they would normally do is they would have people that they would go into their individual homes to give them a manicure, to do their nails. And they would also collectively go into care homes. And then they would go around to perhaps 10, 15 people and be able to do. How many people can 6 people physically touch in an afternoon and have a bit of a chat? So it's wonderful. And I know that I went once to a care home with a group of our hand and nail people, and we lost one of them because there was an Elvis impersonator and she wanted to go and have a dance. So she went in there, grabbed hold of one of the guys that was sat there and had a bit of a jig with him. Lovely people, absolutely lovely. But those are our hand and nail. And then we've also got our friendship clubs. So we'll be relaunching the Essex Road Friendship Lunch, which runs on a Monday and a Thursday. And then we will also relaunch, hopefully, our Morrison's Lunch Club, which runs each Tuesday down at Morrison's. We get transport, pick people up, take them to Morrison's, sit down, 30 of them, have a bit of a chat, 2-course meal, and then they can go off and do shopping. That's been running for 2 years. It would have been running for 2 years, so we ran it for a year, and then obviously during COVID we had to stop that. And then also in October of 2019 we launched our Friendship Tea, which was like a dementia support cafe, very much supporting the person with dementia and then also supporting their family. And of course during COVID that's had to fold, but really looking forward to relaunching that. That was a fantastic support, and the lovely thing was that we were doing that in connection with South Links, so they were there also. A great, because if we can collaborate, we will also always collaborate. We will also always work in partnership with other agencies. It just makes sense. And then the last one we normally do is a clean team. So this is where a group of people would go into someone's house, spend 6 hours, 8 hours cleaning the house, because that person, it may be through illness, disability or bereavement, the house has actually just got into disarray, and it's progressed so far that they don't actually know where to start. And we can go in there and we will be very, very gracious to say, can we, should we? We won't go in there and just clean and tidy. We do work in partnership with the person whose house it is. So those are the 7 voluntary services. As I say, 3 we are still operational through COVID, and then the other 4, Julie and I are working on how to relaunch, refresh if anything's needed, but very much looking forward to that. And I know all of our volunteers are so looking forward to post-COVID, when they can go out there and do the stuff that they really like doing.
I mean, I think the key thing is as well is that, you know, just kind of coming on from what others have said today, is that we do take, you know, working in partnership with the community, with other multidisciplinary teams. But I think as well, we deal with people each day, people with mental health, people which we serve, born in the deepings and the local villages. We know that the demographics is that we know that we're all getting older, right? Unfortunately, but you know, in the Stamford area, we do know that the demographics is that the majority of people are elderly, are of older age, and therefore the thing that I think we should all be very proud of today on this Zoom webinar is that everything that we're all doing is to help that cohort of people. I mean, we're here to help everybody, but I think it is really important that, especially during COVID, that we have, you know, people have been unfortunately had no option, but, you know, government protocol, being told that they have to shield. And I think here at Evergreen, we have taken a very person-centered approach in making sure that the person is in the middle and everything that we do is about them. But also as well, I think what everybody will agree with today as well is that it isn't just to stop the social isolation for the, you know, the elderly, the frail, people who are struggling with mental health issues, but actually it's a dual thing. So the volunteers who actually step up and give up an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however much time it is a week, it's actually helping them, because it's getting them out, it's getting them to realise, because a lot of our volunteers, not all of them, but a lot of them are retired as well. So it actually gives them some time as well, to be able to give back to the community, but also to feel their worth as well. So I think that's just a a key point to kind of put across as well. Can we go on to the next slide, please, Richard? So again, Sue has very well put together all about a synopsis about our 7 volunteer-led services. And I think for us over the last year as well, we've done a lot of work to ensure, and unfortunately we didn't put it in the slide, but we've actually got a new website as well. So we will get that out for everyone. But if everybody goes to www.evergreencare.org.uk, you'll be able to find there our new website, where it'll tell you all about us, all about our volunteer-led services, and also as well the fact that we're a charity first and foremost, but we're also got paid for services too. So if you could go on to the next slide, please, Richard. So as we've already said, maintaining people's independence without kind of taking over, because the last thing I would want, and I know certainly years ago when I first came into the care profession, I think that what I used to do, I think I inadvertently took away people's independence because I was trying to be too helpful. So my goal when I used to, whether it would be in the hospital or whether it would be in somebody's home, it would be, let me make that cup of tea for you, let me make you that dinner, let me make your bed, let me do all of these things. When actually what we hear about Evergreen is about enabling people, making sure that actually if they want to make us a cup of tea, then that's great, because we can kind of oversee them whilst they're doing these small activities in their home. And then we can also feed back to the GP if they're low in mood, sorry, is that a question? Sorry, if they're obviously low in mood or anything like that. So we can feed back to the GPs, we can feed back to the community nurses, and as Lisa touched on as well, here at the Evergreen Care Trust as well, we do have the NHS emails too. So that does allow us as well to kind of have that, for want of a better term, although we're all safe, etc., how we communicate via email here, but for want of a better term, the NHS email, it's all that bit more encrypted, and it allows us to be able to share information more freely and easily across the right portals with other health professionals. So, for us, again, kind of going from the birth of Evergreen in 2005, what Louise very quickly seen was the fact that social isolation was a big thing, trying to get the community, which is what everybody's talking about today. Lisa mentioned about how years ago, how everybody would know each other on the street and everybody would be kind of knocking on each other's doors and having a bit of a gossip and all of those things. And I think those times have changed, because I know certainly for me, I do know my neighbours, and I'd be very helpful, if there was a power cut or anything like that, if I thought anybody needed anything. But I know that I'm out at work most days, so therefore, I maybe don't have that amount of time, especially in the winter when it's dark. So it's dark when I go to work, dark when I come home. You maybe don't have that time to be able to kind of see your neighbours on a more frequent basis as what you would have done years ago, where people would have been advocating on sitting on the doorstep. So again, what is really important is we do have our paid for services as well. So we do have our home support service, which it puts together all the things that people need to do to achieve to remain independent in their own homes. So again, it's not about us taking over or taking over people's decisions, but it's enabling them to remain their independence. So again, our home support service is about companionship, well-being, flagging concerns to the GPs, having discussions with people so they can share their concerns. But also as well, as people do get older, or it may be that they suffer from mental health conditions, things that you and I take for granted on a day-to-day basis, being able to do the dishes, being able to access the community, isn't as easy for other people. And that's where our home support workers come in. So they can assist people to access the community, assist with maintaining their home, and that can be working alongside the person, which is obviously important, helping out with laundry, helping them with the shopping. Now, obviously, with the current restrictions, we haven't been, unless it's been an emergency, allowing people in cars, etc. But obviously, normal conditions would be that, you know, we would assist people to do, whether it be an online shop, whether it be to access the shopping together, so that they're not only having a one-to-one with that person for the day, but they're also accessing the community as well at the same time. I think the other thing as well is to be clear is that Lisa mentioned as well in her presentation about everybody needing a certificate in things these days. We do have a thorough induction programme for our volunteers and obviously for our paid for staff, because we think it is important that, but we're not pedantic about it. And I think that was the point that Lisa was getting to, that if it's your neighbour and you want to go and click the kettle on, you should be able to just go and do that. And I think for us, we have a comprehensive induction programme. And one of the key things for us as well is that with our home support volunteers and our wellbeing wardens, is that we ensure that we're looking after their wellbeing and their resilience. Because for us, it is all about looking after the community, but we need to look after our staff and volunteers. And it is so easy to volunteer. It's so easy to sign up and be a volunteer for the Evergreen Care Trust. And because it's so easy, it is important for people to know that they are going to be looked after too. So again, as well as the home support service, next slide, Richard, we've also got our wellbeing service, which is our regulated service, regulated by the Care Quality Commission. So again, our wellbeing wardens do all of what our home support workers do, but they also oversee people's medication, nutrition and hydration. And again, this isn't about taking over, this is about enabling people to remain independent in their own home, working closely with the GPs and the pharmacies to make sure that people are getting the medication at the right time, the right dose, and obviously making sure that they have a well-balanced diet. So again, it's not about us bossing people about, but it is about us giving them as much information as possible, and whether that be accessing, like you say, the Morrison's Lunch Club, because we've done that before as well with other people, or whether that be just going to the local, not that I'm name dropping, but the local Costa Coffee or Cafe Nero to be able to, to be able to have a cup of coffee and things. And I think the key thing is as well is that by going to these people and working with Dementia Support South Links and having these cafes and allowing people to be informed of all of these different things that people are doing, it keeps the community together, and it prevents people from being stuck at home, and obviously bearing in mind the people who are stuck at home because they maybe don't have the ability to access the community because they could be bedbound, etc. We do have the ability for our wellbeing wardens, home support workers, or our charity-based services that we spoke about to be able to go in or to telephone these people so that they can be as connected to the community as possible. So I think, for us here, we really enjoyed and thank you for allowing us to talk about the Evergreen Care Trust today, and also as well been great to hear from from our colleagues as well in the community. And all I would like to say is I'm really looking forward to June the 21st, albeit well, so we can all meet up for a coffee or a pint or a glass of wine or what everybody's tipple is, to be able to celebrate being able to get together again. Thank you.
Thank you both. That was a great presentation.